Mr. Bolotnikov, in the campaign before the presidential elections, Maia Sandu positioned herself something like Europa, this is me. So she put a clear sign that voting for her is support for Europe, and support for Europe should mean probably voting for her. So, given that the results show that 49% of the people voted no at the referendum, which asked for constitutional amendments so that EU accession is allowed, what did those people who voted no voted against? Did they vote rather against Europe or rather against Maia Sandu?
The question is very good formulated because most of the people who voted no at the referendum, they were mostly like voting against Maia Sandu because this referendum, let's say, from my point of view, wasn't as necessary as the government said that it was, because we are talking about um, asking people, let's join to the European Union when the people haven't seen what does the European Union in Moldova. I mean, this candidate status, this billions of euros that will arrive in Moldova would mean for them. This is one the first conclusion. The second is that we don't know for sure if all those people really voted against Maya Sandu or against European integration, because I, I think you've seen that most of those people just sold their vote. We don't know for sure how many, but the police estimates that they identified like around 100 130,000 people at least, but they say that it's possible to be more, even more than what Maya Sandu said, like more than 300,000 people. So it's more like it's around 20% of the votes were bought by the politician like Ilan Shor and so on. So we don't have a clear answer here, a response here, because it's it's even the polls didn't indicate that. The polls say that the vote for the against will be around 45%, but instead we got what we got. So we don't have a clear answer. I hope we will have in the near future, but right now we don't know exactly. But I think most of the people, probably the people who really wanted to vote no, they most voted against Maya Sandu because they didn't like that this idea of European integration was correlated, was linked only to the president image.
Okay, so if it has been a referendum officially on the EU, but maybe also at least partially on the figure of Maia Sandu, in what areas was Maia Sandu's first term in the office a success, and in what areas can we speak of poor results?
Yes, so well, I think Maya Sandu was very successful on the external affairs area. Uh, she she just she managed to um, get Moldova out of the isolation that we were before she was into the office, when before she was president, and she did that very good. Even if sometimes that meant that Moldova just like there was a train and Moldova just jumped on that train, didn't expected for her train to go to the European Union. I mean, with Ukraine announced that they will sign the request to join to the European Union, and Maia Sandu and Moldovan government did that like a week or 2 weeks after what Ukraine did, and there was that critic. But long story short, Maya Sandu was very successful on the foreign affairs area. Uh, on the other side, she wasn't very successful on economy and on justice. Well, we can't blame her for all the faults on economy because the economy is more like, let's say, the power here to change the things are more in the government and parliament hands. But on the justice system, it's also that. But Maya Sandu has this ability to nominate the judges. So she did I think she did good on her part, but her team and her government, because she got this comfortable majority in parliament after July 2021 election, wasn't the best, because there are a lot of people who are blamed for most of the failures, and so. I mean, this would be, if to say in the most simple terms, about what and when, where Maia Sandu managed to do the best. The external affairs, it was the best, and the justice wasn't the best. This is like the extremes, you know.
Okay, if we look at her opponent, Aleksandr Stoianoglu, it has been written that he is Romanian citizen and one of his daughters works at the European Central Bank. Moreover, Stoianoglu played an important role in the process of signing and ratifying the association and free trade agreement with the EU. So, in this context, how justified are the claims that if Stoianoglu wins the presidential elections, there will be a change in the geopolitical direction of Republic of Moldova towards the east?
I don't think there will be a major change in the geopolitical direction for Republic of Moldova if Stoianoglu wins, because let's look at the map. We are landlocked between Ukraine and, Romania, and that means that even if we wanted to have a better, let's say, to be more near to Russia, we can't geographically. Second, this is related to the economy. And the third is related to the fact that Moldova as a state is a state, that kind of state which survives thanks to the EU and the Romania's aid and the international community aid. So this is the first, let's say, the practical reasons. But also, I don't think that Stenoglu would reverse the course, because even the party leader who supports him, the socialist Igor Dodon, former Moldova's president, said that they will not cancel the negotiation process with the European Union, and they will continue to do that. So this is like a change of rhetoric, and because everyone understands that the Moldovan state has to choose a way to survive independently. So the only way, at least for now, it's to join the European Union. But if the things will change, let's say for worse, if the Ukrainian army will not resist, or something like that will happen, and we will end up having Russia as a direct neighbor with us, there probably will be major and significant change of the course. But for now, yeah, if Stoianoglu will become president, I don't think there will be any other major changes. Also legally, because the president in Moldova is only a formal position. It has mostly ceremonial, like ceremony attributes, and all the power is more in the hands of parliament and the government, because we are a parliamentary republic, and the parliamentary election from the next summer is where the real game will be played.
We saw how in the referendum the diaspora changed the results. How did the diaspora vote supported which countries in which countries did Maia Sandu won the Moldovan diaspora vote, and in which country Stoianoglu prevailed, and also what could be the guesses why some countries or Moldovans from some countries voted in one way and why in other countries in another.
Well, after all, the Moldovan diaspora managed to make the referendum to pass, like manage to pass the referendum. When we're talking about the presidential elections, we will see that from the 37 countries where election polls were open for the 20 October election, Maia Sandu managed to win in 33 countries. So the absolute majority. Maia Sandu managed to win, especially in Europe and in the North America, where the diaspora is more favorable to her. And she didn't. And Stoianoglu managed to win only in 4 countries, it was Russia were open only to election polls, how they are called, Turkey and Bulgaria. uh, these were the countries where Stoianoglo managed to win the most voters. But there was a surprise. I mean, also there were countries like I think in Greece, not the whole country, but like the embassy opinion, embassy election poll. Renato Usati, who's like the kingmaker right now, he was placed the third in this presidential election, managed to win and to end up on the second place, which is something very surprising. But so yes, this is the situation from diaspora with the presidential elections. Why? I'm not sure, but I think that in Moldovan diaspora there is like, let's say, a disappointment towards not Maia Sandu personally, but to the performance of her party, of the government, which is managed by her party, and she is associated with all these failures and as well with the successes, but more with these failures. And I think this was the main reason uh, why Maia Sandu didn't manage to win like the absolute majority of the votes in diaspora. And the second, I think it's because some of the candidates started to have these electoral meetings with Moldovan citizens, even abroad. I think this is the first time when I read that they started to do that, but I don't remember if Stoianoglo did that. I don't think he did that. Also, Sati didn't did that. Only Maia Sandu went to Italy to meet Moldovan citizens there, and I saw that probably former Prime Minister Ion Chicu. He was like from a pro-Russian alliance. It wasn't entirely pro-Russian, but he went and met some Moldovan citizens in Germany. So this is also, I think, one of the reasons for the result in diaspora at the presidential elections.
We speak just a few days before the second round of the presidential elections. How do you assess the political and social atmosphere in the Republic of Moldova between the two rounds of the presidential elections? What have the two candidates done during this period so that they could attract voters? And how is the public opinion evolving at this period?
I would describe the atmosphere, social, political atmosphere in Moldova right now as tense. First, because after everyone saw the results of the referendum, there was a huge disappointment, but it was more than a disappointment. I mean, even on social media, there was a lot. There was this discourse, so that those who voted no should be punished. How should be punished? Let's cut them the EU funds for those regions who voted no. Let's take them the Romanian passports, because even in diaspora, more than 20% of Moldovans voted against, which is again quite surprising why they did that, because they are living in Europe. They know the advantages of living there. Why didn't they wanted this to be as well in Moldova? So this was a very tense, and on this background appears some xenophobic and let xenophobic messages from some activists who were like they didn't they tried to justify why Moldovans shouldn't vote for Stoianoglo, and they say that the Moldovan shouldn't vote for him because he's Turkish, because Gagavuzia is a Turkish region in Moldova, and it was more harsh than what than I have described right now. Also, the atmosphere is quite tense because Maia Sandu's electoral staff decided to take a more harsh approach and harsh messages. Basically, they are saying directly, like sometimes it's like threats, like if Moldovans will not vote for Maia Sandu, Moldova will follow Georgia's fate. We will no longer have this visa liberalization regime. We will longer all the borders will be shut down if Stoianoglo wins, and so on. So on this type of messages, the atmosphere is very tense, and most majority of the citizens, from what I see, are trying to relegate their favorites, even if we talk about Maia Sandu or Aleksandr Stoianoglo. But the things are more, let's say, from my point of view, kind of desperate on Maia Sandu's teams. And why? Because on the first round of presidential election, even though she won by 42%, this is like the biggest the biggest number of votes that she can achieve when it comes about those who really want her to be the president. And she needs, like, again, another, I don't know exactly the number, but she needs, I think, around 200,000 votes, especially from diaspora, and more important from from inside the country, to win the second round. And she needs to do that by appealing to the more undecided voters, like even those pro-Russian voters, or undecided, like those who voted for Renato Usate, for example. So she took a more staunch approach. She said she started to send messages like, we know that we failed the justice reform. We will take a more harsh approach. We will be more decisive in our action, and so on. So she's trying to promote these kind of messages that will allow her to gain more votes. Will portray her like the Iron Lady, let's say, as the international media describe her sometimes. So this, long story short, this would that's what I would say about the atmosphere in Moldova. It's not like a peaceful one. In, let's say, it's elections, and it's a lot of emotions here. That's the most important thing that I want to say. There is a lot of emotion, because the if we look at, again, I said Moldova is a parliamentary republic, so presidential election doesn't have like um, very much important in our political system. Yes, the president is the most important figure, and yes, we will send a very interesting message if Moldova will elect another president. But there are a lot of emotion from both sides, and both sides are on the they believe that they will win the elections. And before we were talking, I watched this debate. It was like a mondial, for the first time, I think, in the history of debates. Ironically speaking, it was a debate without moderator. So Maia Sandu and Aleksandr Stoianoglo just were asking each other questions, and there we saw from Maia Sandu, it was more like an approach. She was attacking him, a frontal attack, like she was saying that he did that and that and that. When whereas Stoianoglo was more defensive. So this debate portrayed like the actual state of election campaign, election season in Moldova.
I would like to end with some question about Moldovan society, because usually it is discussed that Moldova is a country of great polarization, and even the referendum results shows probably there is division in society almost in half. How do you expect Moldovan society will continue with this, or will try to resolve this division after the presidential elections are over, no matter who wins?
Well, I think this trend of polarization will continue because the election season isn't over. The election season will continue until the summer, when we will have the parliamentary elections, and there is like the real game. And for that, I think all these external pressures, especially from Russia, will continue. All this disinformation, misinformation campaigns, and so on will also continue. So I don't expect that this polarization to end very soon. But on the other hand, I don't think that this polarization is like how the referendum showed, because more than 50% of Moldovans, more than 55% of Moldovans, they are supporting the idea of EU integration. And at the referendum, I think we probably had fraud and the electoral fraud, and the results aren't showing us the reality. But the problem is that neither us, neither authorities have uh, real proofs to demonstrate that this was really the case. I think it will take years when until we will see. But yes, we are a very polarized society. Like, it's the trend now all over the world, and probably yes, it will not end very soon. Everyone will keep continue, and they will keep playing like the stakes, and the stakes are very high, geopolitically especially, and they will probably continue to maintain this state. I don't know exactly who is interested in that, but I think this state of polarization in our society will continue. I mean, as I said, the election season isn't over, and this is like, for me, it's quite a problem because of the tense atmosphere that we are seeing, and yes, that's what I want to say.